achieved.
We are entering a very intriguing time in MMA and specifically UFC history. And the reason I say that is because for the longest time now, the place to be was the UFC, and it still is. But there appear to be some cracks showing in the dominance of this MMA juggernaut. We have seen now with Phil Davis and Josh Thompson leaving to go fight in Bellator. Now Aljamain Sterling has opted to basically wait out his contract. Fight out his contract, and now it's over, and he's looking to see if he can sign a better deal. The same thing with Matt Mitrione fighting on this card. A couple other guys are doing the same thing, and of course we just saw Conor McGregor now asking for more money, saying, I'm not going to fight the fight you want unless I get the money I want. So it's very interesting to see how this affects negotiations going forward. Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. As always, I am your host, Scott Johnson, and on this episode of the show, we're breaking down the upcoming UFC Fight Night 81, which will take place on January 17th, which is a Sunday night, from the TD Garden in Boston, Mass., the home of my Boston Bruins, who I'm currently watching over my shoulder as I record this. I will be giving my 4 main card predictions for this event, including the main event, which is a huge fight. It features the current reigning UFC bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw defending against the man who never lost the title in Dominick Cruz. Awesome fight. So I'll give you my breakdowns. All of my preliminary predictions, including all the preliminary carousels, lots of fights being changed, will be available on my website, kamikazeoverdrive.net. So please check that out as well. You can follow me on Twitter. You can look us up on Twitter. There's a link on the site for that. Follow us on Facebook. There's all kinds of fun things. Definitely check out, you might notice at the top of my website, I've got the calendar January for the year, January through December. But if you hover over top of I put a lot of work in here. If you hover over top of the event, you'll see the poster pop up, all the information about the event, the poster pop up, plus the entire fight card. And you can check that out and see after the fight. You can go back and just quickly see who won and who lost each fight. I think that's kind of a cool feature my site has to offer. The bet packs, another cool feature. You can purchase them for $10 for one bet pack, or you can buy the next 5 to end February. I believe that's going to be going for $40, so still a pretty good bargain. The last show I didn't do super great. I went 6-6, but had Carlos Condit been given the decision that I felt he won and he deserved, we would have picked up just over 100 units for that bet. So certainly it would have been a solid, worthwhile investment. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I felt he did enough to win 3 rounds. Obviously controversial. I'm hoping. No problem with Robbie Lawler winning the fight. He was the champion, and he went out there and fought an excellent final round. But I still felt Carlos Condit won. I'm really looking forward to the potential of a rematch. That's enough rambling from me. Let's actually get to my first prediction of the night. The first prediction of the evening takes place in the UFC's lightweight division as Ross, the real deal Pearson, with a record of 20 wins, 9 losses, and 1 no contest, takes on Brazil's Francisco Massaranduba Trinaldo with a record of 18 wins and 4 losses. Now, Trinaldo comes into this fight riding a 4-fight winning streak and really seems to be putting it together in the UFC, including pretty solid wins over Norman Park and Chad Laprise. Pearson's coming up a split decision victory over Paul Felder and has alternated wins and losses over his last 7 fights, but it would seem Pearson's had a lot more momentum than that type of record would suggest. Physically, the Brazilian is 1 inch taller. He'll have a 1-inch reach advantage. The Brit is the younger man by 6 years. Now looking at Pearson first, he's a Taekwondo black belt, Judo brown belt, and a BJJ blue belt. He has 7 wins by knockout, 5 victories by submission, and he's 6-4 on the scorecards, which is a bit of a suspect record there. He also has been knocked out 3 times and submitted 3 times. For Trinaldo, he's a black belt in kickboxing. He's a BJJ brown belt training under Sergio Moraes, who we're all very well aware of as a very competent and very talented ground fighter. Trinaldo 6-0 in wins fights ended by knockout, 5-2 in fights ended by submission, and 7-2 on the scorecards. Now, when you look at Francisco Trinaldo, the 3 UFC losses that he has suffered have come against Michael Chiesa, Piotr Hallman, and Gleison Tibau. In all 3 of those fights, the ground game played a significant part of it. Tibau and Chiesa had a lot of success grounding Trinaldo, and Hallman scored a couple of takedowns and eventually submitted him. So those are something to keep in mind when you look at this fight and what Ross Pearson brings to the matchup. Looking at some stats first. Strikes landed per minute favor Pearson at just about 1 strike more landed per minute than what Trinaldo brings to the table. On the other side of things, strikes absorbed per minute, Trinaldo does a better job defensively, getting hit about 0.83 times less than Pearson. Another stat to look at, Trinaldo has given up 9 takedowns. I just talked about giving up 9 takedowns in his 3 UFC losses. And Pearson's actually has had similar issues, most notably against Evan Dunham, where he was taken down on 5 occasions before losing a decision there. Now, looking at Pearson first, he's a very good boxer. He has good footwork, good head movement. He throws a very hard right hand. He'll throw it in succession a lot of times, double and triple it up. Nice left kick to the body. And also look for him to lead with a left hook, which can be equally as successful, but he's more known for his right hand. He will also work to the body. And one technique I really like the way he sets it up. He will work over his opponent's body. He'll come low with start low with his combination and rise up and look to crack his opponent with a right or a left. He landed a nice left hook on Sam Stout and knocked him out in that fight. But one thing I don't like about Pearson, it has cost him in the past. He tends to wait on his opponents a little bit too much, looking to counter, and allows them to be aggressive. Go back and see the Diego Sanchez fight, which it was still a travesty. Nonetheless, that was, I guess, the biggest issue there. For Trinaldo, he has drastically improved his striking. He does throw a bigger overhand right, and at times, especially in a little bit earlier in his UFC career, he tended to, be very wild with it and swing wildly, and that's something you don't like to see. But he's really cleaned that up. He pumps his right jab very effectively. He will throw nice hooks to the body. When he took out Chad Laprise, he dropped him with a left hand. He has some very nice low kicks and constant forward pressure, which is something effective. And when his opponent does close the distance or he ties up, look for him to land some hard knees in close. One thing with Francisco Trinaldo, of the two, he is the more likely to land takedowns. Against Akbar Areola, he landed some nice takedowns and controlled the majority of that fight with his top position pressure after landing takedowns. He stacked him up. He's got some very good ground and pound, which we saw against Chad Laprise that finishes him, and he's very good at catching kicks and scoring takedowns as a result. When Ross Pearson fought Evan Dunham, he was taken down early in that matchup. He got up quick, but eventually, he struggled to create separation, eventually got put back on the mat and spent large durations of that fight on his back. What Pearson needs to do, he needs to feint more to really draw out his opponent's, shots and give him a better chance to defend. Again, I talked about this already. Pearson, he tends to wait too much on his opponents when striking, and when he tries to counter Trinaldo's forward pressure, if Francisco is able to avoid those counters and keeps moving forward, that's going to make him look like the aggressor, and it's going to be harder for Pearson to routinely get his offense off the way Trinaldo engages. Look for Francisco to score the odd takedown, or at the very least clinch with Pearson and threaten with a takedown and make him focus on a multi-layered offensive attack. Pearson doesn't have the wrestling to replicate some of the issues Trinaldo's had in the past, which I think is certainly going to be a problem here. Also, keep an eye on Pearson's chin. Trinaldo has power, and if he cracks him, he could certainly put him down. At the same time, look for Trinaldo's gas tank to possibly be an issue and later in the fight if Pearson can really force him to work hard. But I think Trinaldo outlands him, is the aggressor, takes advantage of Pearson trying to sit back and counter him. Look for Trinaldo to land the odd takedown, and my prediction is Francisco Trinaldo to pull off a little bit of an upset and defeat Ross Pearson. I'll take him by very close decision. Moving up to the heavyweights for fight number 2, the number 6th ranked fighter in the division, Travis Hoppa Browne, with a record of 17 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw, takes on the 14th ranked fighter in the division in Matt Mitrione, with a current record of 9 wins and 4 defeats. Now, Browne is coming off a loss to Andrei Arlovski in a very entertaining fight, obviously not the result he was looking for, and he's alternated wins and losses over his last 4 fights, which was preceded by a 4-fight winning streak, so he's had success, not so much of late. For Matt Mitrione, he's coming off a very disappointing submission loss to Ben Rothwell in a fight that he was actually doing quite well in before he got caught. He did have 3 straight first-round knockouts prior to that and has won 6 straight fights. All 6 of his last 6 wins have come by knockout. And keep in mind, this is the last fight on Matt Mitrione's contract, so he's going to want to come out and look very good and really improve his stance in the company, with the company and with anybody else who's looking to sign him by showing, I beat a very top-ranked guy in Travis Browne, and pay me some money, basically. These fighters, as is the case with heavyweights, have a number of common opponents. Both fought Gabriel Gonzaga and both won by knockout. Both fought Brendan Shaw, but different performances there, with Browne scoring a knockout and Matt actually losing by submission. Also, both men fought Czech Congo earlier in their careers. Congo fought Browne to a draw and defeated Matt Mitrione via decision. Physically, Browne is 3 inches taller. They have the same reach at 79 inches. And Matt will come in probably 5 to 10 pounds heavier than Hoppa, and Mitrione is about 4 years older. Both guys are very athletic, but I give the speed and cardio edge to Matt Mitrione. We'll talk about that momentarily. Browne, BJJ purple belt, 13 wins by knockout, though 2 wins by submission. He's 2-1 on the scorecards. He does have 2 knockout losses to the aforementioned Arlovski and Antonio Bigfoot Silva. Looking at Matt Mitrione, he's a black belt in karate, 8 wins by knockout, 1-1 on the scorecards, which is, again, heavyweights don't seem to go the distance very often. Unless you're a certain Russian heavyweight, and one KO loss, which came against Roy Nelson, and he's been submitted twice in his career. Now, watch Roy in this fight right off the bat. It's just interesting to note, Matt Mitrione's not going to have a glove touch. He always does this. He doesn't like to allow his opponent to at least close the distance, even for that momentary, lapse where he's, they touch gloves. He likes to create distance right off the bat and get right into his method of operation, which is movement, stay on the outside, be elusive, don't let them, close that gap early on. And that's what Matt Mitrione does very well. Lots of movement, lots of lateral movement. He's, as I said, he's got an above average speed for a heavyweight fighter. He leaps in and throws a very nice straight left or right hook, covers distance very well. He when he took out Gabriel Gonzaga, he threw a nice counter check right hook and dropped him as he came forward, just short but right on the button. Against Ben Rothwell, he was sitting in the pocket and throwing flurries, and it was mixed results. He was getting tagged, he was also having some success, but again, he's better on the outside. He does have a tendency to hang his hands a little bit low when he's throwing his punches, and he was, as I said, he was getting cracked a little bit by Ben Rothwell when they exchanged. His leg kicks, something he probably doesn't do enough of, but he throws some nice chopping leg kicks. Doesn't throw them, as I said, doesn't throw them enough. I'd like to see a little bit more. Certainly earlier in his career, he threw a lot of them. Possibly it could be a concern with getting taken down by good grapplers. We might see more of it against Travis Browne, who's not known for his ground game. Looking at Browne now, Edmund Tarverdian, that's where he's training with out of that camp alongside Ronda Rousey. Is that a distraction? There are certainly issues brewing there. Obviously, being with Ronda Rousey and the whole wife domestic assault situation, certainly there could be some outside issues affecting his performance coming into this fight. Now, Browne moves very well for a big man as well, but one thing you'll have to watch, and I've seen this more of late, he tends to have a very wide, almost bridge-like stance where he gets his legs spread out very low, and it takes away from some of his movement, makes him much more stationary. Look for him to jab the body and really try to extend that lead hand when he pumps it in there. When he hurt Brendan Schaub, he landed a beautiful counter uppercut as Schaub came forward. And he tends to load up his punches. Obviously, it's very effective when he does land, but it can make him much easier to defend against. When he fought Arlovsky, he was hurt by a counter right as he came forward and a spinning back fist, so it seems like in the aftermath of his initial strike, he became, he's very vulnerable. He also holds his hands a little bit low. And, he was moving away from Schaub very effectively, but he tends to move straight back. And against a guy like Matt Mitrione, who covers distance very well, that might get him in trouble. And against Arlovsky, it certainly did. Arlovsky was having success. He knew where he was when he was trying to avoid strikes. There is the possibility that Browne could look for takedowns to try and take advantage of Mitrione's questionable ground game, but that takes him out of his comfort zone, and I don't like that. Mitrione got caught on a sloppy shot attempt by Ben Rothwell, got caught in that guillotine, got submitted. He also got submitted by Brendan Schaub, so there's that area of vulnerability, but again, that's not Matt Browne's forte. Look for a lot of lateral movement out of Mitrione. He'll keep Browne turning, and that wide stance is going to make it difficult for him to keep up. He's going to keep rotating that. He's not going to be nearly as effective trying to catch up, and I think that's going to give Mitrione some opportunities to land some big strikes. Mitrione needs to use his speed, keep moving. That chin of Browne is a major question mark. We've seen him tagged a number of times and hurt in a couple of fights. I think, Mitrione being similar size, same reach, a little bit faster. I think he hits a little bit harder with a better striking offense. I think he cracks Browne coming in, and my prediction is Matt Mitrione to defeat Travis Browne by knockout. We move now to the co-main event of the evening. It's in the lightweight division as the former lightweight champion, the number one ranked Anthony Showtime Pettis with a record of 18 wins and 3 losses, takes on the fourth ranked fighter and former Bellator champion, 16-4 Eddie Alvarez. Now, as this is a matchup of actually former WEC and UFC champion taking on a former Bellator champion, so a lot of these guys have had a lot of success in various organizations, so they are elite, top-level lightweights. Now, Pettis is coming off that title fight loss, which is certainly a concern. He's never lost 2 fights in a row, and he has, on his run to the title, he had big wins over Donald Cerrone, defeating Benson Henderson to capture the title, and defeating Gilbert Melendez. Those are 3 impressive names before he ran into a buzzsaw that is the current champion, Rafael dos Anjos. For Alvarez, he also beat Gilbert Melendez via split decision. It was after an unsuccessful debut against Donald Cerrone, and he has wins over guys like Michael Chandler and Shinya Aoki, so very well-known lightweights as well, very capable guys. So certainly he's fought high-level competition no matter where he fought. Physically, Pettis 1 inch taller, 3 inch reach advantage. He's also 3 years younger. And for Alvarez, at the stage of his career, this could be the last opportunity he gets to go on a run to fight for the title, because this is a stacked division, and one slip up, even in a fight as close to the top as this one is, it can send him cascading back down the ranks, and other guys like Tony Ferguson are looking to jump ahead. For Alvarez, 14 wins by knockout. He's 7-2 in fights ended by submission, 5-1 on the scorecards. He does have 1 loss by KO on his record. Now for Anthony Pettis, Taekwondo black belt, BJJ by knockout, 8-0 in fights ended by submission, but he's 3-3 on the scorecards. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. For Alvarez, excellent boxing. Footwork, works in and out very well, can do a lot of damage at close distance. Now, he does tend to get hurt a little bit in fights, but he's shown the ability to recover very often, but it's still a concern. And if he gets tagged by Pettis, Pettis has the ability to put him away. What Alvarez does well, leaping left hook. It's a very effective technique. He will jab to the body, throws a very hard right hand as well. Look for him to go left hand to the body and then try to set up that right hand, right hook to the head. He throws some nice combinations against Cerrone. He was having a lot of success landing some big combinations in succession with those big hooks. He also throws some nice hard low kicks. And against Cerrone, early on in that matchup, he did a lot of damage in the clinch. It was that dirty boxing scenario where he kind of held on to Cerrone, and Cerrone stuck in the position, and Alvarez just started cracking him. Now, on the negative side, against Cowboy, he was hurt by those low kicks, and that really turned that fight around. He tends to stand very heavy on his front leg. And that's something that if Pettis can take advantage of with his kicking dexterity, he could really exploit that and take out Alvarez's base. My apologies there. Now, and also Gilbert Melendez stunned him with the right hand early in that matchup. That was really all Gilbert Melendez had to offer after that early exchange. Now, for Anthony Pettis, a very diverse kicking attack. He can attack with minimal space. He's very flexible, so it allows him to really unload those kicks, from very short distances. Switches stances often, doesn't telegraph his strikes. Overall, a very gifted striker. Look for him to mix in turning side kicks. He landed a beautiful head kick to take out Joe Lozon. He's landed in multiple fights. And again, minimal effort and very difficult to defend against. That left kick to the body is also a devastating attack, and some jumping knees he will work in as well. When he fought Gilbert Melendez, he hurt him with a hard right hook in just, again, a very quick transition. He landed a big shot. Short right hand as well can be very effective. He throws an uppercut, which can, also catches guys off guard because they're focusing on so many different levels when he's attacking, and again, it's another one coming from underneath. The big question with Pettis is, does he throw enough volume? He averages 2.15 strikes landed per minute, which isn't a lot, especially when he gives up 1.97. Now, those numbers have been inflated a little bit by the Rafael Dos Anjos fight, but still, there's some questions there. For Alvarez, 3.38 strikes landed per minute, gets tagged at just over 3 strikes absorbed per minute, but still, he outpoints his opponent, and that's important. As fight, they're going to see that. If you're landing more strikes, if you're getting hit a lot as well, that doesn't, it's not a good thing, but still, if you're being the aggressor, that's what Alvarez will do. Pettis has a very bad track record in long fights. He lost against Clay Guida and lost against Rafael Dos Anjos, both via decision. He beat Jeremy Stevens by very close split decision as well. And overall, since his starting in the WEC, he's 2-3 in fights that go the distance. When Gilbert Melendez fought him, I think he created the blueprint to beat him. He was aggressive, he stayed on him, he didn't stand at range, and he had a lot of success till he got caught with that submission. Rafael Dos Anjos carried that blueprint out and won the title from Pettis. He clinched along the cage, he took him down, he kept Pettis moving backwards, and Anthony has a tendency to give up positions where he's fighting off his back, which really limits his movement and makes him much more hittable. He's, if Eddie Alvarez elects to take this fight to the mat, Pettis is dangerous off his back, but again, if he gets pinned there and can't pull off the submission, he's getting pounded on. Alvarez made the change against Mendes to work his wrestling and had success. The takedowns were very effective, and that's something I think he will do here as well. He also fought in the clinch. I think he needs to use his boxing in this fight to short circuit the kicking game of Pettis, stay at boxing range. I think Eddie learns from the Cerrone fight. He can't let those leg kicks pile up. He showed the toughness in the Melendez fight to be battle back from taking some bad damage to his eye. I think Pettis coming off that title fight letdown. It could be a letdown or it could be a rebound. I'm leaning towards a little bit of a letdown. I think that was a bit of a knock on his psyche there. Alvarez needs to be aggressive, dictate the pace, keep Pettis backing up, and keep in mind, Eddie Alvarez is 5-1 in fights that go the distance. He knows how to outwork opponents. He knows how to out-hustle them. He should be more comfortable with a UFC win under his belt here. And I think Pettis has another tough outing, and my prediction is Eddie Alvarez to defeat Anthony Pettis by decision. And now it's time for the main event of the evening. We're in the UFC's bantamweight division with the title on the line as the champion, TJ Dillashaw, with a record of 13 wins and 2 losses, takes on the number 1 ranked fighter, the former champion, the man that never lost the title belt, the Dominator, Dominick Cruz, with a very impressive record of 20 wins and 1 defeat. Now, there's huge pressure on both men coming into this fight. Cruz is looking to show that he is the best in the division. He hasn't lost momentum, hasn't lost his ability to fight at the top level, despite being off for a significant amount of time. And for TJ, if he loses this fight, the run that he went on to win the title and beating Renan Barão and defending the title against Joe Soto, it becomes kind of an afterthought or a footnote to the fact that the belt has really always belonged to Dominick Cruz. It was just waiting for his injuries to, him to get over his injuries. Now, there's a significant amount of chatter and bad blood heading into this matchup. Mainly Dominick Cruz has been doing the chattering, doing a lot of talking. Is he in TJ's head? It would appear to be in some of the interviews. Other outside factors, Cruz, just 2 fights since 2011. It's well documented. He's had injury issues. He's been out for 18 months cutting into this fight. He beat Takei Mizugaki after a nearly 3-year-long layoff. And he's the last man to beat Demetrius Johnson. Keep that in mind. That seems like it was ages ago, and DJ's come a long way since that fight. For TJ Dillashaw, he's fought just once in 2015 after fighting 3 times in 2014. There's been a lot of issues with him leaving Team Alpha Male, a lot of friction, maybe some distractions with these issues with Uriah Faber. And keep in mind, he's still, at heart, he's still a Team Alpha Male product. And there's always that stigma is that Dominick Cruz has had a lot of success. He beating Faber, can Team Alpha Male, he's already got by the Nova and Yao issues. Can he get over that other hump that his other teammates couldn't do his other teammate couldn't do in Dominick Cruz? Physically, Cruz 2 inches taller, 1 inch reach advantage. And keep in mind, he's only 1 year older than TJ, which might, a lot might find very shocking. For TJ, he's coming in on a 4-fight winning streak. His last loss against Rafael Sunsao coming back in 2013. He's an NCAA Division I wrestler, 6 wins by knockout, 3-0 in submissions, and 3-1 on the scorecards. He does have that one KO loss coming against John Dodson in the Ultimate Fighter finale, again, another lifetime ago. For Dominick Cruz, an impressive 11-fight winning streak heading into this fight against some top-level competition. BJJ blue belt, 7 wins by knockout, 12-0 on the scorecards, 1-1 in fights ended by submission. Of course, coming against Uriah Faber back in 2007, and that fight taking place at featherweight also in another lifetime. Now, here's some stats, and this gives you an idea of what they've done leading into this fight. TJ Dillashaw averages 5.81 strikes landed per minute. Very impressive. Dominick Cruz, not quite as lofty, but still 3.4. Those are some good numbers. Defensively, Cruz has the advantage. Gets hit at just 1.87 strikes per minute. That's very impressive. TJ, nothing to be ashamed of. 2.63 strikes absorbed per minute, but still you see Cruz has the edge there. Here are the numbers that are the most striking. It's in the wrestling department. TJ, 100% takedown defense, very solid. But he averages just 1.76 takedowns at a 38% completion rate. You can see wrestling has not been a major part of his championship run. It's there. It's not been a key component. Conversely, Dominick Cruz averages 3.95 takedowns at a 56% completion rate. He integrates his wrestling much better. Takedown defense, 83%, very strong, and again, against top-level competition, against guys like Uriah Faber and Demetrius Johnson, who were looking to take him down. Now, looking at Dominick Cruz, again, we know these guys very well. Excellent footwork, moves in and out very effectively, side to side. He does tend to hang his hands a little bit, not a little bit, a lot too much, but still he gets away with it. The big question is, has the layoff impacted his movement and ability to carry that pace over 5 rounds if necessary? That's a hard question. Only Dominick Cruz knows, and he might not even know till after this weekend. Offensively, he throws a very nice uppercut. He has a nice left hook he'll work in as well. Punches come from all angles with this guy, and he forces his opponents to react to his movement, and that creates more openings for him to land his strikes. He also throws a nice leaping right hook, and then what he does effectively is while he's throwing, he's already exiting out to a different angle, and his opponent doesn't know where to throw a counter strike or how to react. He does the same thing with his leg kicks, nice chopping, really whips those legs in there, but again, he's moving away. His opponents can't counter him because he's not in the same place they last saw him. He does have a tendency to duck his head too much when he's striking. He needs to avoid ducking into an uppercut that TJ throws very well. We also saw another thing where both Demetrius Johnson and Uriah Faber had a lot of success attacking Dominick Cruz on the break. He was coming off the clincher, a tie-up, and they were able to land some strikes when he's most hittable, and that's something TJ needs to do. He had success doing something similar against Renan Barão along the cage, especially in that second fight. Also, Johnson had a lot of success coming forward against Cruz using speed and pressure. It really threw Dominick's routine off. And Faber hurt him when he was able to, with a right hand, when he was able to time Cruz coming in. The biggest thing that Faber had issues with is his success was too infrequent. That's what TJ needs to clean up. For Dillashaw, he throws a very nice lead uppercut. He will work in a good head kick, which can be one of his most effective techniques. Some inside and outside leg kicks, maybe not quite enough, but still they're there. He dropped Renan Barão with a beautiful right hand, and he's able to close the distance quickly, which made that so effectively. He changes angles as well. He's very good when he has a speed advantage. He throws a nice right jab. He'll also look for a right hook, which he landed against Barão, and he'll switch to southpaw. He showed that in the second fight, which can be an effective way to throw off his opponents. Now, he too uses a lot of movement, but he tends to come straight forward when he's attacking, and Barão stood right in front of him, which made him much more effective. I don't think TJ integrates his movement into his attacks as effectively as Cruz does. It's more window dressing. Cruz uses his movement when attacking as part of his attack. TJ kind of bounce around, here I come, I'm going to hit you. And, we saw TJ, he was getting cracked early with some shots by Renan Barão once he committed and got in close. Similar thing against Joe Soto when he was looking for the knockout. And the question is, if Cruz has gotten his head and TJ's, emotional, is Cruz going to be able to, take advantage of that and, hurt him? Also, going back to the Rafael Sunsao fight, Sunsao was throwing a lot of fakes and feints and switching stances, and it seemed like TJ was thrown off. Again, that was way back before he made these transitions, but still, it's something we haven't seen anybody do that since to him, and that's what Cruz is going to do. Also, look for Dominick Cruz to try and wrestle him, add dimensions to his game. He took Faber down 4 times, he took Johnson down 10 times. When he took Faber down, it was a lot to do because of the striking and the way he was attacking. It was forcing Faber to move unnaturally, made his defensive wrestling far less effective. TJ, we've seen him use takedowns in the past, but again, it's not a part of his attack. It makes him a little less diverse. I think Dillashaw needs to take advantage of the opportunities he has to hit Cruz and knock him out or hurt him severely. That's what Faber was unable to do. I think Dominick Cruz is going to keep busy. He's going to avoid TJ's offense, land his own. I think you're going to see Dillashaw start to get a little aggressive, a little desperate at times. It'll make some mistakes. It'll make him more hittable, and that'll really start to pile up as the fight progresses. Cruz's biggest concern, again, is the layoff and the ability to carry the pace and move like he had in the past. If that isn't an issue, I think TJ's going to have, again, trouble landing with consistency. He's going to get hit, and he's going to get taken down at times, especially as the fight progresses. And my prediction is Dominick Cruz to defeat TJ Dillashaw and win back the title he never lost. I have Cruz winning it by decision. So those are my 4 main card predictions for UFC Fight Night 81. I know they were a little bit longer, and I actually tried really hard to shorten them up, and it probably some of the longest predictions I've ever had. Nonetheless, they're very good fights, and I'm very much looking forward to it. When you look at the odds, I've picked 4 underdogs. We'll see if that pays off. I don't see these guys as underdogs. Obviously, I see avenues for both people to win the fights, but I certainly see how these guys can win the fights, and that's where I'm going with. That's where I see the most likely scenario. Nonetheless, all of my preliminary predictions will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. Please check them out. And the bet packs weren't great last show. They were dynamite the 4 shows prior to that. So certainly we want to continue that success. And you saw, had Carlos Khan at 1, I would have had a big payout in the bet packs for a 5th straight show. So certainly consider that. Buy the subscription. It gives you a little bit of a discount, saves you $10. I like honest people who buy my bet packs and realize that if we don't win, that's gambling. If we do win, fantastic. If we don't, we'll get them next show. Either way, check out the website, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and as always, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you right back here next time.